budget oversight hearing on ServeDC. The Mayor's Office on Volunteerism and Partnership, better known as ServeDC, is the District of Columbia's government agency dedicated to promoting service, strategic partnerships as an innovative, sustainable solution to pressing social challenges. ServeDC promotes volunteerism and social services across the city with strategic community outreach and engagement. ServeDC manages a portfolio of service days, connects residents with meaningful volunteer opportunities and establishes partnerships and collaboration among community and faith-based organizations, private sector, the local and federal government. ServeDC receives federal grants from AmeriCorps and manages AmeriCorps state and national service program, which provide ongoing services opportunities and addresses critical community needs. I look forward to the testimony from our public witnesses here today and discussion with our government witnesses, which is Alexis Squire, who is the Chief Service Officer at ServeDC. Today we have one public witness, Ms. Alexandra Fields. If you can promote her from CASA for Children for DC. Ms. Fields, if you're here, you can go right ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Councilmember White.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good to see you again. Sorry about that. Trying to get myself situated here. It's good to be here again. Good afternoon again, Councilmember White and members of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. My name is Alexandra Fields Evans, and I'm the Senior Manager with CASA for Children of DC, known by many as CASA DC. ServeDC is indispensable to the DC community, funding and enabling capacity building to DC's nonprofits and volunteer-based organizations like CASA DC. We know the importance of volunteer-based support for the DC community, and we urge the council to continue to value and prioritize ServeDC and the impactful services enabled through their funding. Through ServeDC, we have connected numerous volunteers, and we also have been provided funding to strengthen and diversify our volunteer base. We are so grateful for all that ServeDC does to support CASA DC and organizations like ours, and look forward to further opportunities for partnership, collaboration, and funding. For 20 years, CASA DC has provided compassionate, trauma-informed, and cost-efficient care to DC's most vulnerable children, foster youth, and since 2016, juvenile justice involved youth. CASA DC is the only organization in DC that unites child advocacy with mentorship. Our volunteers are the heart and core of our work. Our volunteers are recruited from the DC community, representing all backgrounds and experiences. They complete a robust trauma-informed and culturally responsive training to become CASAs, which is court-appointed special advocates. The youth that we serve are system involved. Most have experienced significant and compounded childhood trauma, profoundly impacting their present and future outcomes. But the presence of a positive and consistent adult figure is a known protective factor against the insidious impact of childhood trauma. Our CASA volunteers are the protective factor for DC's trauma-impacted foster children and juvenile justice youth. CASAs develop a supportive one-on-one relationship with the youth, engaging them in positive experiences and empowering youth to achieve key goals. That personalized one-on-one relationship informs CASA's advocacy, ensuring that child's voices and best interests are heard in court. Not only is this work impactful, it is transforming. Our youth are doing better in school than their peers. Last year, 201 youth were assisted in education and learning by their CASA volunteers. With this support, more than half of our youth are meeting or exceeding expectations in school. That's 8 times higher than DC's foster youth as a whole. With robust well-being support from their CASAs, 210 of the DC's vulnerable and trauma-impacted youth were able to identify and practice healthy coping mechanisms. 211 demonstrated positive communication and pro-social behaviors. 207 were supported in building key life skills, with CASAs preparing 108 youth for the workforce and empowering 196 to develop strategic goals. Our juvenile justice program Bridges builds protective factors in justice-involved youth to prevent recidivism. 89% of our youth demonstrated positive communication skills and practiced positive coping, and 91% demonstrated pro-social behavior. Our justice youth are on the path for a brighter future. 93% have set proactive goals, and with the CASA's help, 83% of the youth avoided contact with the juvenile justice system over a 6-month period. Less than 25% reoffended during this past year, and 86% of our youth are currently on track to successfully complete their diversion programming, and that is to include probation requirements. With opportunity for expansion, we are providing evidence-based peer circles every week at the Barge and Restorative Justice Centers, and now have provided safe, positive, engaging spaces for nearly 100 youth. And we're also at MLK DYRS Mondays, the Achievement Centers. CASA DC services the DC foster youth and we're currently funded by the DC Superior Court and private and federal grants. But we could do so much more with additional funding. ServeDC has funded CASA DC in the past, enabling significant opportunity to recruit more volunteers to transform more lives in DC's youth. We look forward to additional opportunities for funding, such as through AmeriCorps. CASA DC is activating and training the DC community to take care of the district's vulnerable children and positioning them for brighter futures. With additional funding, there are so many more potential volunteers that we could connect with, and much more that can be done for our youth. Thank you, Councilmember White and representatives of ServeDC, for your time and attention today and all that you do for our community. CASA volunteers empower DC's youth to have greater outcomes and success. With ServeDC support, we have the capacity to recruit more volunteers and to serve more youth, and together to make a difference in more lives. We welcome any questions, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. May I ask, what areas are you primarily serving in?
We serve in all the wards, but most of our youth come from Ward 7 and 8.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And on a daily basis, is there some type of programming that happens daily that you do that you can describe?
Daily, I would say, our CASA volunteers are with the kids for at least a year, so there should be some communication. Like, they always have that access to their CASA volunteer for that support, but we're not doing daily programming. But we are doing weekly programming. And again, at the Barge Centers, we're in all the Barge Centers, working with the youth on probation. And then we're at MLK Achievement Center on Monday doing the Girl Circle programming, which is a peer group.
And what happens at these facilities?
So at MLK, we're doing Girl Circle, which is like a peer support group of girls and people who identify as girls. And we do, self-esteem building, art projects, just a safe space for them to have appropriate interactions with youth their age, and build those pro-social skills. So some community services involved with that, different speakers. At Barge, we are doing the same kind of curriculum, but we service male youth on probation as well. So we do what we call boys council. So we are, just doing this evidence-based curriculum to help them build that pro-social skills and have a safe place to, discuss the things that they're going through, and also connecting with the probation officers and supporting them to get off of probation. So we have staff there every week. And to go back to your first question, I thought about it. We're doing individual therapy at the office.
Okay.
We have expanded our programming so the kids can come. Many of them, if they're gun violence victims, they can come and get free therapy with us. So we have clinicians there weekly to do that.
I heard you talk about additional funding. What initiatives, if the funding increased, not saying it's going to increase because I can't speak to that yet, will be funded if there was additional resources?
We would definitely have a more robust group of volunteers, through AmeriCorps, whereby we could train those volunteers to do more specialized programming, such as tutoring for the youth. That's a need that we definitely need. And I think that, AmeriCorps would go right in line with what they stand for. So that tutoring, that one-on-one support to increase that education outcome for our youth, especially literacy and things like that.
That's great you said that, because I just came back from a literacy walk that started at 2:00 at Anacostia High School. We know that during the pandemic, even before the pandemic, more so during the pandemic, the achievement gap has widened, especially for African-American and brown kids in the city. And so we would like to, figure out how we can make that work as well.
Absolutely.
Is ServeDC your main source of grant funding?
No. It's
Okay.
one of our sources, but not the main source. But I think, with funding, we could definitely, collaborate with the volunteers. We have hundreds of volunteers, and we want to really have volunteers that are in the DC community that are really supporting and committed to these youth. We serve primarily all Black and brown youth at Casa DC. So we want to diversify that volunteer pool and really support them. As I mentioned with literacy, I had an idea to have a writing camp this summer, right? We need volunteers, people who have been teachers, people who can sit down and read to the kids and do enriching activities. So we always use that.
Have you ever done programming in conjunction with DPR's teen programs?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
DPR teen. No, we have not.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Ms. Fields, and your team, and what you all do in the community each and every day of providing services for our community. It's phenomenal work. I want to encourage you to keep up the good work. We need you steadfast and show up every day.
Thank you so much, Councilmember White. It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mhm. Now we will transition to our government witness, Miss Alexis Squire. Chief Service Officer of ServeDC.
Good afternoon, Council Member.
Good afternoon.
It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. It's great to be seen.
All right, I will start.
Right ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the committee and staff. My name is Alexis Squire, and I'm honored to serve as the district's Chief Service Officer and the Director of the Mayor's Office on Volunteerism and Partnerships, affectionately known as ServeDC. Our office is aptly positioned within the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, MOCA, and proudly serves alongside 13 other constituent service offices, all focused on engaging residents across all 8 wards, along with the business community and the multi-sector partners, as we help to actualize Mayor Bowser's strategic direction of leading our city's comeback. Last week, during Mayor Bowser's budget testimony, the mayor shared the economic realities of our city that we are currently facing, largely due to the response and recovery efforts from the pandemic, along with the impacts of inflation and a prolonged telework posture. Accordingly, her proposed budget prioritizes our city's long-term growth and doubles down on critical investments needed to make DC a place we want to call home, do business, and visit for years to come. It also prioritizes cost savings and investments that support our city as a world-class city with amazing people and a responsible local government. This fiscal year 24 budget comes at a critical juncture for our city. We are fortunate that, and even in these tight times, the district remains well-resourced and able to continue delivering world-class programs and services. Still, the budget reflects many tough choices, and it was formed with an eye towards how we will get the best outcomes for our residents and make a strong comeback. For ServeDC, this means a continuation of programs and services, promoting service and strategic partnerships as an innovative, sustainable solution to pressing social challenges. The local budget proposed for ServeDC for fiscal year 24 is $4.285 million. ServeDC also receives federal grant funding. Through these local and federal funds, ServeDC will continue engaging district communities by building partnerships and organizational capacity, leading local and national volunteer and service initiatives, and providing and promoting meaningful service opportunities. We will achieve this by continuing to demonstrate our ability to curate an energized civic ecosystem that connects each act of service from need to action in response to our city's greatest challenges and needs. Through grant funding, strategic philanthropic partnerships, volunteer and service opportunities, and targeted capacity building and amplification, ServeDC continues to meet this moment in audacious, adaptive, and actionable ways. We will also continue to posture our time, our resources, and efforts to serve as a connector, curator of service, community convener, capacity builder, and a conductor of donations that our city and residents across all 8 wards deserve. In the fiscal year 24 budget, ServeDC will allocate more than $4 million in federal AmeriCorps subgrants to community-based organizations that address some of our city and nation's most critical needs, including gun violence prevention, public safety, public health, education, racial inequities, and economic mobility, along with providing training and technical assistance that helps to increase organizational capacity. These investments enable us to continue to build upon the legacy of our DC AmeriCorps story by recruiting and retaining a core of diverse and service-minded Washingtonians who are better positioned to live and thrive here, largely due to the values and skills acquired through their service experiences. Additionally, funding provided by AmeriCorps' Volunteer Generation Fund supports nonprofits that serve boys and young men of color, with an emphasis on those with missions and programs that address key needs that have arisen and worsened as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, including physical and mental health and wellness, gun violence prevention, and financial literacy and life skills. Our fiscal year 24 priorities include continuing to address our city's greatest needs through this service and funding model, along with shaping DC's AmeriCorps' member experience and legacy by addressing key barriers such as access to housing, career opportunities, and local government resources. To date, over 75% of our DC AmeriCorps service activity occurs in sites located east of the river, including in DCPS public and charter schools, such as Teens Run DC, who is currently serving at Ballou Stay, John Hayden Johnson Middle School communities, and After School All-Stars, currently serving within Cesar Chavez, Bruce Campus, Leckie Elementary, and Hart Middle Schools. And finally, Jumpstart, currently serving at National Children's Center, Ketchum Elementary School, Eagle Academy, and Moton Elementary communities. We also heard from CASA and some of their East of the River service sites. We will also focus on bolstering our local member and alumni community through targeted outreach and convenings like our All Core Capacity Building Conference, along with tracking outcomes and post-service engagement of our members. Our efforts are designed to support a new generation of servant leaders with local ties and values, with the expectation that they will become our city's newest homeowners, civic leaders, educators, and public servants. Ensuring residents are prepared in times of emergencies, natural disasters, or any localized crisis, and advancing Mayor Bowser's commitment to creating more informed and more resilient communities are also reflected within the ServeDC fiscal year 24 budget. ServeDC continues to underscore the safety of our residents and their ability to build back in equitable and accessible ways by providing trainings, activations, and community for residents and community-based organizations to learn and serve. Our plans with the fiscal year 24 budget are to use the designated resources to honor this commitment by directing our efforts where the community has signaled it needs it most, including aligning our CERT, Community Emergency Response Team program, through increased outreach, targeted partnerships with East of the River communities and faith-based organizations, and deep cultivation and engagement of the DC CERT community of over 200 members strong. We will also provide standalone, life-saving emergency preparedness training offerings to meet emerging challenges within our community, including active shooter awareness, CPR and AED, first aid until help arrives, stop the bleed, and also partnering for Narcan training. We will design volunteer recruitment and operations to support seniors and those with access functionality needs during snowy weather, to include other extreme weather occurrences such as leaf removal, flooding, and heat advisories. And last but not least, we will empower our young people to be civically engaged and gain community service hours while creating a career pipeline in emergency management through partnerships with DCPS, DOES, and our SYEP program, and additional learn and serve opportunities. Mayor Bowser's fiscal year 24 budget also continues to support the heart of ServeDC's mission, connecting district residents to our community's greatest needs through service and volunteerism. In fiscal year 24, we will continue to enhance our efforts by identifying innovative and inclusive ways to execute annual service initiatives of Mayor Bowser, including MLK and 9/11's Day of Service, along with Global Youth Service Day, and amplifying the value of volunteerism through strategic partnerships and large-scale recruitment efforts with district agencies such as the Mayor's Office of Clean Cities and their citywide cleanups, and the DC Department of Transportation through their open streets. Additionally, in an effort to support DC as an interconnected, culturally rich, service-powered city, we will continue to support and amplify the over 200 nonprofit organizations that live in our portal with diverse missions, along with the 200 plus active ongoing service opportunities via our portal. We will also work closely with the business community to understand their emerging volunteer needs, their challenges, and the opportunities through strategic partnerships with Events DC, Destination DC, DC Startup Week, and the Washington DC Economic Partnership. ServeDC will continue to serve as the clearinghouse for donations to the district and ensure that local government staff understand the value, the proper protocols, and the impact of donations. Already in fiscal year 23 to date, we have processed over $3 million in donations. Each of these donations must follow a protocol to be sure that the donations are made free and clear of any conflicts or reciprocal obligations to the donors. Training and assisting persons throughout the government in the procedures for following the donations protocol is a task that is never complete. Through our nonprofit capacity building convenings and workshops, along with our biweekly funding alert, we continue to focus on local community-based organizations, especially those who serve within vulnerable communities. We also aim to connect these organizations to attract and retain new partners, new funding, and new resources to increase their capacity and increase their impact to our city and its residents. Our funding alert is a critical element of transparency in the district's grant-making activities, letting all nonprofits know when the district has issued a request for proposals. The resources allocated to our office support our agency's ability to make big investments in our residents and build on the programs and strategies we know work for our community. Through the mayor's fiscal year 24 budget, we fully expect to continue providing the same or expanded levels of service giving our funding. In closing, I would like to thank Mayor Bowser for her leadership and for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. It is an honor to serve my neighbors and our beautiful city in such a direct way. I also want to thank my ServeDC and MOCA colleagues and team who work tirelessly on behalf of our city and all of its residents across all 8 wards. And finally, I would like to thank you, Councilmember White, for the opportunity to testify and for your unwavering support of our shared community. I welcome any questions from the committee at this time.
Thanks so much, Director. I appreciate that. I want to start off by asking you, how does your engagement vary, if any, across the wards? And is there any specific areas you're focused on in the upcoming budget for funding programs?
Yes, so we are really intentional around having a targeted outreach by ward and also by our priority audiences. So that's youth, seniors, east of the river organizations, faith-based community, and residents. And so we are really targeted with our outreach, but we also do some outreach that is more broad in terms of our funding alert, which goes to our listserv, which is of thousands. And then the next question you asked, Councilmember, was about funding.
Yeah, funding priorities as it relates to programming areas.
Yes, so we are actively receiving our AmeriCorps funding. I'm very proud of expanding the focus areas for AmeriCorps in the last year to include gun violence prevention and opioid, the increase in the opioids abuse. So we are really targeted. We want to be as responsive and really take the mayor's leads of her priorities and be able to have the funding to reflect that and support that.
Got it. I did see that, that your AmeriCorps budget declined by almost $340,000 with a change in FTEs. What is the cause of this?
We are a part of EOM's budget, and so I think that is a part of that. We have estimated what we will be. When we receive more AmeriCorps money, if we were to receive more AmeriCorps money, that could fluctuate depending on the national availability.
How would this impact your ability to do what you do now?
It won't impact. We have a strong plan. We're best equipped to be able to respond to the needs of our community. And again, we're always at the ready. If AmeriCorps is to put out additional funding, we are positioned to be able to apply and receive it.
We see that your outreach budget increased by almost $150,000 for extra FTE. What is the purpose of this position and what is it going to be used for?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember. We actually did not propose that FTE. I think what you're seeing there, and we saw it as well, should not be within ServeDC, but certainly within the executive office of the mayor. And then our Chief of Staff, Lindsay Parker, will be able to speak to that more during her hearing on April the 12th.
Got it. And that number was 146 to be exact from what we my team. So what are your top 3 priorities for this fiscal year budget wise?
Sure, that's a great question. Our first priority, again, is being able to execute the AmeriCorps funding with fidelity and making sure that we're being as inclusive and accessible as possible. It was great to hear from CASA. We have fundees, grantees that have received our volunteer generation fund. That is one that is really promising for us. We hope with our funding to create a pipeline of organizations that will go through the AmeriCorps AmeriCorps process and be able to increase and grow through that funding opportunity. So that's certainly number one. Number two would be our community resilience. We want to make sure that our community is prepared when, times are steady, but also when there are emergencies or crises. And so, as you heard in my testimony, we will be doubling down to make sure that more of our members of our residents are certified, that they have awareness around active shooter, that they know CPR and all these life-saving skills and techniques to be able to be empowered in times of emergency. That would be number two. And the third priority with our funding is really around our nonprofit capacity building and making sure that we, again, are creating a synergetic multi-sector ecosystem that includes businesses, philanthropic entities, and our nonprofits, that they're connected and able to better provide resourcing to advance their missions. I'm sorry, Chair.
So you all serve as it's almost like an intermediary into receiving funds and donations. Can you explain that process to the committee?
Sure. So we do not receive the actual donations, but we are making sure that the donation process is done in an ethical and appropriate way. So we work with our partners at MOLC and make sure that, again, that all donations are done in an ethical way. We also lead training with our intra-district government agencies to make sure that they—
I got a question on that. So you serve to make sure it's done in an ethical way by doing what? So the donation comes to where, and when it comes to that place, you do what?
Okay, that's a great question. So once an agency gets a donation, they will go through our QuickBase system, and there's a donation agreement that we will review and make sure that there are no issues. We will also work with, again, our legal counsel's office to make sure that they have clean hands and other guidance that is important for donations, again, to make sure there's no reciprocal actions around the gift. And then we will, again, review it, make sure that it gets that legal soundness, and then we will provide a signature and provide it back to the original agency or organization.
And is this all government agencies or specific government agencies that you
It's all across the government.
And
Yeah.
how many staff do you have dedicated to do that work?
We have 2 local FTEs that do that work.
Got it. I did want to ask about grant making.
Sure.
Can you speak to that from the agency?
So we received as you just shared, we are kind of like an intermediary. So we received the grant funding from AmeriCorps, and then we are able to sub-grant that money out to the community. What that looks like is really understanding the dynamics where we have autonomy. I'll highlight one of our grants, which is our formula, which we're able to, again, to really focus it around local priorities. So we will make sure that we put that RFA out, that it has, on our clearinghouse, that we are opening up to the public. We're doing a lot of targeted outreach. We're also doing pre-bidder trainings to make those available online so that anyone that is interested can learn about the opportunities. We also avail ourselves through office hours to make sure there are any questions that the community has, we're able to answer them. After we are closing that process, we will, again, go into the grant reviewing process. We solicit volunteers to help us with grant reviewers, with grant reviewing, and that is another opportunity that is on our portal. We make it as seamless as possible, as making sure that it's done, again, in an accessible and really fair and equitable way. After that has happened, we'll do a ranking of the top grantees or applicants. And then we have recommendations that are done by the grant reviewers and my staff. We review this with our ServeDC commission. And then after the review, they vote on them, and we're able to, again, start the process of awarding the grants.
Thank you. How much in grants did you all give out?
So every year we give out about 3 million plus in grants.
And I heard you mention in your opening statement about the funding alert. Is this advertised through the funding alert? What's your method of advertising the different pockets of this 3 million?
So yes, we do use our funding alert. That is one vehicle that we use, but we're also out in community. We, through our other offerings, whether it be CERT, active shooter, any of our other offerings, we're always embedding our grant opportunities, and we take the opportunity every time we're in community to share more about our grant opportunities. So yes, it's done in various ways.
In this last round, how many, if any, of the grantees were new grantees?
So we have a 3-year grant cycle for our grants. So we had one new grantee in the last year, and that was, give me one, Foster and Adoptive Parent Advocacy Center. But we actually have a live open grant process that is now, that closes April the 14th.
Do you have to be a DC-based organization to get this grant?
Yes, sir.
How do you verify if the organizational company is DC?
Again, because there's so many different documents that are needed to be able to receive federal funding, we are able to verify that pretty easily.
Okay. What are some of the documents that you request?
We make sure that they have clean hands. We make sure that they have their DC business. We make sure that they're registered with sam.gov. So those are a few of the compliance measures that we take.
Thank you. And how do you pull together the resources to advertise through the funding alert? What's the algorithm to both private, public, and even federal government dollars to send out to the community? How's that done?
Yeah, actually, it's something that we take a lot of pride in. We are, again, ensuring that we have the district funding available and highlighted. We also, through the funding alert, are highlighting other agency funding. So whether it's obviously DC or DSLB's funding opportunities, we're able to showcase that as well. And then we break it down by focus areas. So again, making sure that we're very intentional and that we are matching the needs and the priorities of Mayor Bowser. So whether it be affordable housing, we have grant opportunities under that, education, public health, transportation, and infrastructure, so that we are making sure that there's something for everyone. In addition to that, we also highlight resources. So partners such as DC Pro Bono Center or the Center for Nonprofit Advancement that might provide other webinars or resources to help nonprofits to grow and scale.
And I know we talked a little about this. Thank you for that. During the performance oversight hearing, but I wanted to hear more about recruitment for volunteers. And I see that number has fluctuated at some points. How are you recruiting volunteers and how is that coming along?
It's going well. Actually, the portal that we launched in 2020 in the height of the pandemic has been really a valuable tool for us, something that we leverage daily. I think that, again, it is accessible. It allows not only for us to highlight our own volunteer opportunities and days of service, but also over 200 nonprofits across the city are able to have program pages where they can highlight any, things about their mission, any videos or multimedia assets that they may have, along with their volunteer priorities and their ongoing volunteers. The other thing that is really great about the portal is that the volunteer themselves are able to share what their skills are, if they have specialized skills in legal aid or financial literacy or mentoring, they're able to share that and also their availability. So it's more of a matching to the best opportunities that fit your needs and fit where your availability lies.
Got it. And I know that you are ramp up pretty much a lot of times around holidays. Is there a special type of recruitment that happens around holidays, and are other government agencies able to use some of their staff that when they take off or volunteer, you are tapping into those workers as well?
Yes, so we welcome all volunteers, especially around the holidays. The more the merrier. We are making sure that our district, our residents have a bright holiday season. So we do Toys for Tots traditionally. We do our Safeway Feast of Sharing. And yes, those opportunities are not only used, we blast out the opportunities through our Gov delivery, through our social media, but also through our portal, making it very, inviting for all.
Got it. You reference using resources where the community has identified they are most needed. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, so we are really, again, being as responsive as possible. After every event that we do a survey to make sure that we have a sound understanding of the community's feedback of all of our offerings. And we take that opportunity to really inform our next steps. And so that is definitely what we are hearing. We listen to our agency partners, we listen to our constituents. And I think an example of that is understanding where our CERT program needs to go, and also our SNOW team. We've heard, from seniors who are also having difficulty with removing leaves. So that is an area of expansion and targeted response for us that we hope to activate in the coming year.
Got it. And does your office solicit in any way to receive donations for specific areas or priorities?
Yes, we are able to solicit donations in our office, and we do so to support mayoral priorities like the Maternal and Infant Health Summit and any other mayoral priority that will service our community.
And what are some of those priorities?
As I mentioned, maternal and infant health is really our hallmark priority that we've done in the past. Again, we use it, we solicit donations to help with our Spirit of Service awards that celebrate service throughout the city. And any mayoral priority that the mayor may identify, we stand at the ready to be able to support her.
It's a fire truck coming up the street. I try to mute for that, but I live across the street from a fire department. They're supposed to.
No problem. City living.
Yep.
It makes us great.
Sometimes. All right. That's all I have for you, Director. I want to thank you and your staff for being informative and responding to our many calls and requests across the city for volunteerism and service. Any closing remarks, Director?
No, I'm just excited to be here and really excited and honored to serve.
Thank you so much. All right. As a final note for this hearing, if you could not testify but would like to submit a written testimony to be included in our official record, you can email our Committee on Recreation, Libraries, Youth Affairs at RLYA@dccouncil.gov. The official record will close Wednesday, April the 5th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. With no other business before this committee, the time is now 3:53 p.m. and this hearing is adjourned.
All right, thank you.